Yi Yunxi patted her hands and said, "Just this car?" "Yes." Yu Xiang became proud. "This is the newest model this year. My dad had bought it for me on purpose. No one else in the school had sat on it yet. You're the first." Yu Xiang put up an aloof and arrogant expression. He looked as if she should thank him for giving her this chance. It was as if he wasn't sitting in the car but gold. "That's too low. I don't sit on cars below $1 million. Yi Yunxi waved her hand, turned around, and left. Previously, all the cars she had sat on were all army tanks. Any of them would easily cost at least 2 million, and they all came with guns, cannons, and high-technology structures. What was his car compared to that? Seeing that she wasn't giving him face, Yu Xiang became angry with embarrassment. He grabbed her and said, "Hey, I gave you face, and you're rejecting me. Let go." Yi Yunxi turned her head coldly, and her eyes shone with a murderous gleam. Yu Xiang was so shocked he felt his back turn cold, but he still stubbornly held onto her arm and said, "Why are you acting coy? You were the one who seduced me first, slut." Yi Yunxi laughed. She peeled Yu Zihang's hands away and slapped him. Crack! The surroundings shushed once she slapped him. Everyone stared at Yi Yunxi with their mouths wide open in shock. Had this trash gone crazy? She hit the most handsome guy in school? Yu Xiang was in even more shock. Half of his face was in burning pain. It felt as if his bone was burning as well. "This useless thing was so brutal. Did you just hit me?" He was in disbelief. This useless thing actually hit him. Yi Yunxi lifted her head in arrogance, her chin raised in a beautiful line, and her orbs were gleaming black. She was so beautiful it didn't make sense. "You deserve it. Ding. Awesomeness Express +10. Yes. Scumbags deserve it. The host is fantastic." The system was pleased. It truly felt terrific and as if its heart was flying. Her Awesomeness Express had reached 960, with 40 more, she'd be able to unlock the character attribute and reach the peak of her life. It was so agitating, it really wanted to see its host goddess rise to the sky. "Yi Yunxi, enough. Look at this school. Who can sit in a car worth $1 million here? Don't be shameless when I give you a chance." "Just with this car?" Behind her came a deep and hoarse voice. It was lovely, and when one heard it, they'd feel numb. When they listened to his voice, his looks instantly swooned them. They didn't know when but another luxury car had appeared at the school exit filled with greenery. It was even a limited edition vehicle. One could tell that this car was more expensive than all the army vehicles she had gone on, and it was of a whole nother level. A man wearing a suit was quietly leaning on the car. His face was more beautiful than a woman, but his face was sharp and apathetic. His lips were curved in a cold smile. His lazy look brought along an exhibited arrogance. He used his long and cold eyes to size up Yu Zihang's car with a mild expression. Yu Xiang instantly felt that he lost. That's not even talking about the man's aura. Just by comparing the two cars, he had already lost completely. Did he even have a face left to show? Even if he had 10 more of his cars, it's not comparable to this car. Knock, knock. Di Junxi knocked on the car's body lightly and slowly stood up. He used one of his hands to loosen his collar and revealed a sexy collar filled with bursting hormones. Bang it! Before the crowd could react, Mo Yuxiang, who was on the driver's seat, had already stepped onto the gas pedal with excitement. It felt so good. It always felt the best when he could bang into a car which costs more than $1 million. Anyway, he wasn't the one involved in the matter. He was just there to watch the show, and it wouldn't affect him if the issue blew up. Furthermore, this was young Master D's instructions, and he definitely didn't have to pay for it. Thus, he went on with a bang. Bam! A loud bang resounded from afar as the car was flipped onto the ground. Something like petrol had sprayed out from the car as if it had spat blood with all the liquid on the floor. Now, silence fell over the school campus. It was quieter than when she had lashed out at Yu Xiang. Everyone stared with wide-eyed astonishment at the upended land cruiser, and suddenly, it felt like they were all transported into a fantasy world. That was a freaking land cruiser. If there ever were a road bully, this would be it. However, it had been upended by a sports car that had sent it flying. Oh, how embarrassing. Yu Ziying was stupefied. He had begged his father for a long time to buy this car for him. Now, it had been hit. Furthermore, it did so helplessly. Is this a freaking Land Cruiser, or is it actually an imitation? Yu Zihang's face contorted. Apart from the heartache, he was more fearful of his parents. If his dad knew about it, he'd kill him. Compensation. Talk to him. Mo Yuxiang, who was about to step out to assess the damage, froze and looked up. What was that? Compensate, big brother. You were the one who gave the order for the collision. You were the one who made me do it. So, you'd go kill yourself if I asked you? Of course, Mo Yuxiang wouldn't kill himself. Once again, young Master D sabotaged him. Ah, come on. Mo Yuxiang winced and quietly walked up to Yu Zihang's car. He swept his gaze over the vehicle. Tisk. This would cost 200,000, at least. He was most displeased. He walked to the side and picked up a large rock, lifted it with his arms, and raised it. Hey, what are you doing? Yu Ziying was at the edge of his sanity. What was this guy trying to do? Vent my anger. Hell, why should I compensate? If I had to compensate, fine, let me vent my anger then. Since I'm pretty upset now. Bam. The rock descended. The Land Cruiser snuffed out. Yu Ziying went nuts. His heart was bleeding. His car. His little darling. FCK. These people must be here to look for trouble. Alright, fine, I feel good now. Mo Yuxiang wiped the sweat off his forehead and calmly drew out a name card, saying, just go and get yourself a new car. Tell them it's a gift from young Master Mo. When he said this, he turned around in agony, and said, alright, let's go, Grand Old Master. Di Zhengxi smiled. He turned and looked at Yi Yunxi from top to bottom. Finally, he opened his car door and said, I wonder if this 30 million limited edition would have the honor of serving you. Someone gasped, holy cow, could it get any more dramatic than this? Yi Yunxi, where did you get all that money to stage this group performance? You've hit a true blue Land Cruiser. This luxury car doesn't look fake either. So all this is real. Yi Yunxi, where did you even get to know this amazing person? Oh my god, the students went insane. What happened today was like a fantasy story. First, Yi Yunxi had pulled off a big counterattack and, later on, the appearance of this fantastic character. Would she get into the car, though? If it were them, there was no doubt they'd get in. It was a luxury car that cost tens of millions. It was a rare sight. At car shows, one could only see it, and everyone was forbidden from touching it. Now, she had an opportunity to sit in it. Yi Yunxi walked around the car. Indeed a great car. The paint didn't even come off with the collision just then. A Land Cruiser that could be upended by a sports car could only be a modified vehicle. Yi Yunxi brought down the car roof and swept her gaze over the car interior. Suddenly her eyes lit up. Definitely an excellent car. 30 million would have given anyone a top-of-the-class car configuration. Looking at this car, she realized that its setting was indeed superb. I'm so jealous. I want one. To Yi Yunxi, who was a car lover, this car was definitely of superior quality. More than that, she admired this man before her, who would actually modify a $30 million car. The guy was inhuman, wealthy to the point of infuriating. Is it good enough? Di Zhengxi smiled as he looked intently at her. This woman knew her cars. A skillful fighter during the exercise and a car expert on top of that. He was looking at her in a completely new light. Only a talent like this was good enough to be his partner. Yi Yunxi smiled faintly and assessed the vehicle lazily for 3 seconds. Then, she said unhurriedly, good enough. But I only drive, I don't like being driven. Give her the keys or say goodbye. She was obviously trying to bash her way through. Mo Yuxiang could not resist speaking up now. I say, sister, do you even know how to drive? Dude, do you have a driver's license? Mo Yuxiang became speechless. He didn't freaking have one. He hadn't passed his driving test. So, if you can drive, Why can't I? Yi Yunshi's smile was even more dazzling now. She had one hand on the car as she leaned her slim and delicate body onto it in a complete display of her perfect silhouette. Her pale skin against the smoky blue hue of the car paint was a perfect match, making even her silky tresses look exquisite. Seriously attractive, Di Junxi strangely recalled the young girl in a bra during the competition and that pale body that made his blood pressure rise. However, would he let her drive? Mo Yuxiang refused to believe it. He used all sorts of hard and soft tactics to gain access to drive the car. Otherwise, besides young Master D himself, no one would be able to lay hands on the vehicle. Hence, even if you can drive, you'd never be allowed to. Give her the keys. The casual remark came down like a hard slap on Mo Yuxiang's face. He held out the keys helplessly. Just like that? Have you lost your rhythm, young Master D? I'll borrow it for 3 days. Yi Yunqi extended her hand and caught the keys beautifully. She opened the car door and slipped into the driver's seat as a dazzling smile sported on her lips. She sat there as though she was made for the car. The engine started up, the gear engaged, and the accelerator was pressed. All in one smooth motion. The car shot off at once like an arrow released from the bow. Yi Yunqi let out a loud whoop at high speed. That feels good, huh? This car has a driving system modified from a racing car. It looks like it can go faster. Fantastic. As the car roared past, people jumped in fright. The traffic police glanced at the car plate and did nothing, letting the car fly past. Ding! Awesomeness Express +10. At the school entrance. Mo Yuxiang was now speechless. They were initially driving the car, and now, someone else drove it away. Here came the problem. Young Master D, how are we getting home? Surely they weren't going to walk. He was not one to take public transport either. It would damage the young master's image. Call for a cab. Oh, right, we can call for a cab. Mo Yuxiang quickly took out his cell phone. But this sister is really quite dashing. She looks like she knows everything about cars. It doesn't seem like she's new to driving either. I wonder why she's borrowing the car, though. That bit of money didn't bother young Master D. Hence, Mo Yuxiang wasn't the least worried about Yi Yunqi breaking the car. Instead, he was hoping that she'd break it since it would be an exciting sight. Di Junxi was curious too. Why did she borrow the car for 3 days? Very quickly, as though he had caught onto something, he smiled and said, "Come with me to Millstone Mountain tonight." Millstone Mountain? Wasn't that where the local wealthy young heirs had their drag races? Why did he want to go there? Entertainment, entertainment. What sort of entertainment could be found there? The wealthy young heirs breaking each other's skulls over women. He wasn't interested. Having found a spot to park the car, Yi Yunqi strapped on her satchel and walked back home. Since someone was out to sabotage her father, then they couldn't possibly take the money. However, since she had managed to get her hands on a solid car, she now found ways to make money. However, it would be inconvenient for a girl. After her meal and after Yi Yunji had gone back to his room, Yi Yunqi quietly stole into the shed and found a set of her brother's old clothes. Then, she went back to her room. "Big brother, I'm revising my homework, so please don't bother me." "Fine." Hearing the reply from his room, Yi Yunqi grinned and locked her door. She dug around the first aid kit and found some bandages. She bound her small chest tightly. A broad striped male-style t-shirt, cropped turnip pants, and a black hooded cardigan on top. Yi Yunqi glanced at herself in the mirror. Quite androgynous, except that her hair was too long. Crouching low, she ran into her father's room and stole a wig that he used for filming, some accessories, and a makeup kit. She went back to her room and spent a bit of time in front of the mirror. After a moment, her lengthy hair became shoulder length. Yi Yunqi tied her hair back in a dashing ponytail. Her pretty face now had a hint of masculinity to it after a bit of makeup. Her arched eyebrows became sword-like, making her look adequately robust. Yi Yunqi looked into the mirror, rubbed her chin and grinned. Perfect. At the end of Millstone Mountain Road, rows of luxury cars lined up with their high beams on, casting demonic shadows on the ground. The young men and women gathered here. swaying their soft and nimble bodies to the music as the passion and hot-bloodedness of their youth flew high like banners in the air. The moment the luxury car reared into view, it attracted the attention of many. As Yi Yanxi got out of the car, the girls had their eyes fixed on her. Her tied hair sat at the back of her head like a full and fluffy rabbit's tail. At her chest sat a skull crucifix accessory, and there were matching rings on her fingers. A tattoo peeked out from under her sleeve. It was of a cross entwined by blood-red spider lilies. Several girls sized up this stranger fervently, giggling as they whispered to each other, making no attempts to hide the enthusiasm in their eyes. Yi Yanxi did not show the slightest trace of nervousness as she authoritatively sauntered them to greet them. "What's the bet tonight?" She spoke with a sluggish expression. The girls laughed heartily and asked, 500,000, stud, are you in? The money's not important. What about a kiss if I win? Yi Yanxi lifted her gaze lazily, looking extremely wicked. This young man knew how to flirt even at this age. It sent the girls' hearts pounding. She bantered with the girls for a bit until she had the information she needed. Yi Yanxi then roamed towards the car park. There were many luxury cars parked here, all to take part in the race. They didn't allow strangers into the race, so participants had to get a recommendation. Yi Yanxi took her time to size up these good-looking guys who came for the race. She halted in front of one of the cars. She heard from the bunch of girls that this wasn't a bad car, but it seemed like the car owner looked rather crappy. That wasn't an issue, though. If the owner weren't crappy, how would she make her money? "What's up?" The car owner approached, looking at Yi Yanxi with a raised eyebrow. The wicked-looking youth turned around slowly and then realized that she knew this car owner. It was Sun Chao, her classmate and newly adopted little brother. Yi Yanxi scratched her chin. It looked like the guy didn't see through her disguise. The makeup was perfect. "How many times have you won the race here?" Yi Yanxi came straight to the point. Sun Chao paused for a moment, not expecting such a direct question from this newbie. Obviously embarrassed, he said, Not even once." Yi Yanxi chuckled and rapped on the car bonnet, suggesting, "I'll win a race for you, and we split the cash prize 50-50. How about that?" Sun Chao paused for a moment and looked hesitantly at Yi Yanxi. He had never seen her around here and didn't know her at all. What did she want exactly? Besides, she had a better car than he did. If she weren't here for the money, then she must be here for the thrill of it? "Yo, Sun Chao, are you here to give us all more money?" From afar, peals of laughter rang out as a few youths ambled up to them. One of them was a handsome youth, however. He seemed disinterested in what was going on and was plugged into his earphones and had his attention elsewhere. "How can you say that? What do you mean by giving us more money? We are helping him polish his skills. It's school fees, shouldn't he be paying his dues?" "Young man, you should be grateful we're willing to play along with you." "That's right. Do you think our young Master Ming entertains just anybody?" They continued to raise up the guy plugged into his earphones and wouldn't stop putting Sun Chao down. Sun Chao's expression turned ugly as he looked at young Master Ming. He had started dabbling with cars because of Ming Xie, one of the more renowned members of the Sword of the Empire. Sun Chao thought gaining the man's favor might put himself in good stead to make it into the list of the Sword of the Empire. Besides, he worked hard continually to put himself in a better position. Obviously, it was not easy to get into the circle of the Sword of the Empire. "Hey, who's this? A newbie?" They finally noticed Yi Yanxi. "Why, Sun Chao, have you brought someone to suffer in your place?" "Ha ha ha, it doesn't matter who. As long as they bring us money, we'll welcome them." Amidst the touches of laughter, Yi Yanxi smiled and raised a thumb at all of them. Then, she turned it upside down. "Go to hell." A provoking gesture from such a pretty face. Yi Yanxi lifted her head languidly, her metal accessories chiming crisply as they knocked into each other. Ding! Awesomeness Express +10. Freaking hell. This guy was provoking them. Did he not see who was there in front of him? Young Master Ming. This guy is asking for it. Ming Xie, who was looking elsewhere initially, now took off his earphones and turned his gaze towards them casually. He was a good-looking young man who gave an impression of being a floaty, ethereal spirit. He gazed at them with an expression that seemed to suggest that nothing mattered to him, until his eyes fell on Yi Yunqi. She was still smiling provocatively when his dark eyes shifted onto her with such force that it made her burn with indignation. I hear that today's wager is 500,000. Ming Xie became utterly interested. Having someone come to challenge a member of the Sword of the Empire was a real novelty. That's right, young Master Ming. Hey, little fellow, if you win tonight, I'll add 100,000 on top. He was in charge here, and he had run the circuit for 6 years now. He knew the course like the back of his own hand. Nothing escaped his eye. This newbie whom he had never seen before actually had the guts to challenge him? But if you lose, Ming Xie cocked his head to the side and thought for a moment. You have to leave your arm here for me. He pointed to Yi Yunqi's arm that was raised in that rude gesture. One had to pay for provoking a member of the Sword of the Empire. Ha, young Master Ming, this is a good idea. That's right. Otherwise, we'll get people to do this all the time. We'll have to sacrifice one as a warning to the rest. The lackeys got excited, and this time, they looked at Yi Yunqi as if they were staring at a loser with a severed arm. Sun Chao, however, looked anxious as he glanced at Yi Yunqi. Hey, let's forget it. You should go. You won't be able to beat them at it. They've been around for 6 years. This must be your first time here, right? You won't win at this. An unheard of newbie up against a veteran of 6 years. It was impossible, no matter which way one looked at it. Besides, losing meant severing an arm. How could that be possible? Without an arm, he'd be a cripple. Hee, don't worry. Yi Yunqi patted Sun Chao's shoulder. She grinned as she looked at the young man. Will young Master Ming take me on? Little fellow, who do you think you are? That's right. Why would our young Master Ming need to do this personally? I can take you on myself. You're just a nobody. We don't need young Master Ming to lift his finger. A man stepped out from among the lackeys. A scar marked his face. His expression was arrogant and cold. When they realized he had stepped out, not to mention Sun Chao, even the others drew in their breaths sharply. It's Big Brother Blade. Isn't Big Brother Blade the most skilled among young Master Ming's men? For sure. The last time someone provoked young Master Ming, Big Brother Blade dealt with it. That guy was forced to crash, and if it weren't for quick emergency aid, I believe he'd be dead now. My God, this would not only cost this lad his arm, but it would also cost him his life? Everyone looked at Yi Yunqi anxiously, especially that young lady who was chatting with her earlier. The young lady was compelled to say, Hey stud, just forget it. You won't be able to defeat him. Yi Yunqi gave a lazy smile as she turned to throw that pretty girl a look. Thanks, miss. If I should have the honor later, may I trouble you to flag us off? The young lady was speechless. Was this kid mad? Did he not understand what she just said? You insist on courting death? Stop the nonsense talk. Let's start. Big Brother Blade nodded viciously at Yi Yunqi as his voice cut through the darkness. Wash your arm clean and wait for it. Yi Yunqi laughed and replied, If I were you, I'd first prepare my casket. Ding! Awesomeness Express +10, great host. You currently have 990 points, 990 points. The system was getting excited, but Yi Yunqi was extremely calm. She couldn't care less if she had access to character unlocked. She'd finish him. There was no negotiation. This young lad. Big Brother Blade frowned as he coolly observed Yi Yunqi. Good on you, you've already completely infuriated me. We'll see who dies. You're not allowed to use your car. This lad's car was way too showy. First of all, everyone had seen it. Besides, it had been modified. Although she didn't know the whole background, she should definitely not be allowed to race them with such a fantastic car. Otherwise, they could dream about winning. You're to use Sun Chao's car. Big Brother Blade said through gritted teeth. She would never win with Sun Chao's car. Sure, it doesn't matter. Yi Yunqi flashed her lazy smile and said, Give me 10 minutes. Ha, we can give you all night, as long as you don't run away at the last minute. Yi Yunqi ignored him. She turned and went up to Sun Chao's car. She lifted her bonnet and had a careful look inside. You You dare to provoke Big Brother Blade? You'll die a sorry death. Sun Chao was on the verge of going nuts. This newbie was a little too crazy. Yi Yunqi ignored him and asked, "Tools?" He was worried sick. Not only would she not listen, but she was also asking for tools? "What do you want tools for?" Yi Yunqi smiled and said, "Modify your car." Modify? Sun Chao went to his boot and took out the toolbox in half disbelief. Yi Yunqi immediately threw it open. Her soft fingertips brushed over all the different sorts of metal tools and skillfully picked one of them. She bent over. What was she doing? Sun Chao craned his neck curiously, looking at Yi Yunqi from behind in wide-eyed astonishment. How clever, she was tuning the car. She knew how to tune a car. What was her background? Once she was done with the check, Yi Yunqi wiped off the dampness that had formed at the back of her head. She tossed the tool back to Sun Chao and sat into the driver's seat stylishly. She looked past the ridiculous stares from the others straight at him, flashing him an unrestrained smile. "Hey, cutie, would you like to be my navigator?" Navigator? Wouldn't that be the person who sat in the front passenger seat to give guidance to the racecourse? She believed in him that much that she would want him to be the navigator. Sun Chao hesitated for a moment. Seeing that Ming Xie was waiting, he quickly slipped into the front passenger seat without thinking further. Sure, he was laying down everything today. Take it that he was doing this for himself for once. Ha! Yi Yunqi slowly drove the car over to the starting point. Outside the car, music blasted, and young bodies swayed nimbly to the music. Sun Chao felt terribly nervous. His palms were clammy. Then, Yi Yunqi, who had her hand loosely gripping the steering wheel, asked with a lazy drawl, "You've got any chewing gum?" Sun Chao quickly took out a tiny box. Yi Yunqi popped one into her mouth and started chewing. Seeing that Big Brother Blade's car was already starting, she drew back her gaze and looked into the never-ending darkness stretching before them. System. Exchange 10 points for physical strength. Hey, but we are at 990. The system was indignant. They were almost ready to unlock their character attribute. Yi Yunqi combed her long, slender fingers through her fringe, exposing her full and clear forehead under the dim light. Arrogantly lifting her chin, she said monotonously, "I'm the master, you're subordinate." Since when were you in a position to speak? The system shuddered and, at the same time, felt exceedingly grand. It began to feel disgusted with itself after a more in-depth reflection. Could it actually be a masochist? No, it wasn't that perverse. It was a cute little infanta. Ding! Exchange successful. Current awesomeness express remaining. 890, physical strength, 10. Exchange completed. Yi Yunqi smiled satisfactorily. Good system. At the sound of that praise, the system settled down gleefully, almost lying limp against Yi Yunqi. She needed physical strength, although she was skillful, her body needed to catch up. Hang on tight, hang on tight. Sun Chao froze for a moment. Between the two cars, the heartily dressed girl dropped the flag as the two luxury cars shot off like bullets. With a loud boom, they sped off towards the night like two shooting stars. Arg! Sun Chao shrieked. FCK, FCK, FCK. That was fast. Handle, handle, where's the handle? He hadn't grabbed onto anything in time, arg. His shriek excited Yi Yunqi. Among the Yan Kingdom's military force, there was a special team trained in all sorts of skills, including drag racing. She was part of this secret team, except that in recent times they had focused on counter-terrorism. She had had few opportunities to be fooling around with cars. Tonight, it seemed like she could go all the way out to have some fun. Yi Yunqi floored the accelerator viciously. The car surged forward, pushing them back into their seats. She swept her gaze over the other vehicle. Big Brother Blade was looking at her. He grinned as he made a cutting gesture using his finger on his throat, meaning, "Go to hell." Then, he increased his speed and pulled past Yi Yunqi's car to take the lead. There was a curvature in the road ahead. Screech. The ear-piercing sound shook Sun Chao to the core. Before he realized it, they were almost at the first turn. "Hey, navigator, are you up for this?" "Really? Yi Yunxi chewed on the gum as she stared at the back of the other car. Sun Chao turned red. Right. He was the navigator. The car was going too fast, and he had forgotten this out of fright. Huh. That was too embarrassing. Sun Chao immediately became alert. There's a sharp turn ahead, suggesting a drift. Apart from that, it would be hard to catch up. Drift? Seeing that the car in front was starting to flick its tail, Yi Yunxi smiled as she gripped the handbrake. Then she exerted a vicious pull. Screech! She blazed through the sharp turn. The handbrake caused the car to come to a sudden halt as it changed direction sharply. Sun Chao's world was now like a high-speed merry-go-round as the scene swung from one end to another. Before he could scream, Yi Yunxi had released the handbrake. The accelerator roared as the car shot off like an arrow launching from the bow. It went right after the car in front. Wretch! Sun Chao could no longer hold it back. He wound down the window and threw up. The wind lashed painfully at his face. Some of the puke landed on his face, and it was disgusting beyond words. However, Sun Chao couldn't care less. He had to puke. This wasn't taking a corner, this was courting death. It was too frightening. His face had turned pale as a sheet. Yi Yunxi, however, was like an addict now, and she licked the corner of her mouth before aggressively flooring the brakes. Arg! After a bout of crazy retching, the terrible shrieking continued. Yi Yunxi became even more excited. Who knew where such excitement came from? Whether it was the passion that rose with the speed or the brutal screaming from Sun Chao. Big Brother Blade glanced at the rearview mirror and was secretly surprised. The lad was rather skillful to have been able to stay on his tail. However, that was only the first turn, so it was hard to tell. There were to be 4 more at the foot of the hill. Big Brother Blade smirked as he headed towards the second turn. This turn is sharper than the last, Sun Chao retched as he shrieked. He was on the verge of collapse. Just as he had said this, Yi Yunxi had already reacted and pulled the handbrake once more. Screech! Arg! The turn was even more heart-stopping than before as the tail of the car flicked violently. Sun Chao hung on to the handle with his life, suddenly realizing that if he didn't, he'd fly out of the car. It was freaking terrifying. Before he was done shrieking, the car had flown through the turn. The speed at which Yi Yunxi shifted gears and accelerated was lightning fast. Sun Chao felt like throwing up again just watching her. Big Brother Blade clicked his tongue. The damned lad was following too tightly. In his split second of distraction, Yi Yunxi loomed up, and now the 2 cars were shoulder to shoulder. At the top of the mountain, Ming Xie stood at the highest point, staring at the head and tail lights threading through the path. The lights that wound like a snake could be seen through the thick foliage as they made their way along the course. Young Master Ming, the lad is tight on our heels. Ming Xie smiled faintly as he stared at the winding lights. Being able to keep up with Big Brother Blade was considerably impressive. It looked like he had found another talent. Will Big Brother Blade attack? I should think so. He won't be able to resist it if he continues to tail so tightly. Besides, the lad provoked you, young Master Ming, and Big Brother Blade is most protective of you. As the people at the top of the mountain were still debating, Big Brother Blade already had his attention on Yi Yunxi. The 2 cars were at the same level, flying along the serpentine mountain course, screeching incessantly. Go to hell, young lad. Big Brother Blade inched his car towards Yi Yunxi's and squeezed her as the side view mirror was knocked off and flew backward. The speeding vehicles rubbed against each other, causing angry sparks to fly. Hey, 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 we're colliding, we're colliding. Sun Chao went berserk. Big Brother Blade's car was coming at him on his side. He could clearly see the driver's seat of the other vehicle. He could see the sparks caused by friction. Dodge him, arg, dodge my ass. Yi Yunxi clicked her tongue mockingly. Next to her was the vertical cliff face. If she dodged him, she'd crash into the hillside. As she turned reflexively to look, she saw Big Brother Blade's hideous smirk, making that scar on his face look viler. Goodbye. Big Brother Blade laughed derisively as his eyes gleamed. Big Brother Blade laughed derisively as his eyes gleamed. If they continued this way, the young lad would definitely crash into the hillside and shatter into bits. Big Brother Blade went aggressively in that direction, but Yi Yanqi was even faster. She floored the accelerator as her car brushed against Big Brother Blade's vehicle and pulled away. Overtaken, Yi Yanqi smiled as she glanced up at the other car that was diminishing in the rearview mirror. She continued to increase her speed. Overtaken. Sun Chao was stunned. She had actually overtaken Big Brother Blade? Under that dangerous circumstance, overtaken. My God, did she have to be this aggressive? He hit me and wanted to maintain such a high speed? How would that be possible? Yi Yanqi smiled as she chewed on her gum. Her eyes flashed with dazzling brilliance. So it was that, suddenly, Sun Chao idolized this youth. My God, he could think of such things under a life and death situation. Good grief. That was too impressive. Ding. Awesomeness Express +10. Tisk. Big Brother Blade punched his steering wheel. Just missed by that bit. He was only a fraction away from destroying the other car and its driver, but now, he had been overtaken. Big Brother Blade dropped the idea of further fancy moves. In a flash, he switched gear and went after the other car. The two cars were almost on par, one pulling away, the other catching up. They were rarely more than half a car length behind each other, at the most, one. No matter how much of an effort Big Brother Blade made, he could not pull any closer. Damn it! This young fellow was this good? Where did Sun Chao find this guy? He must not lose. Big Brother Blade swept his eyes over the mountain top. They were now on the way back. The first person to return to the starting point would win. Besides, young Master Ming must be observing all this from the mountain top. So he must not lose, since he could not catch up. If he found a way to be the only person left on the racecourse, wouldn't that solve the problem? Big Brother Blade floored the accelerator. As he caught up at half a car body's length, he aggressively turned his steering wheel without any hesitation. His car rammed viciously into Yi Yanqi's car. Bam! Screech! Erg! Came a piercing scream in the dark. As the sparks flew, Sun Chao shrieked tragically. I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die. Arg! Flirtatious youth. What do I do, arg? Sun Chao went nuts, with the other car next to him, separated just by a piece of metal. And right now, this piece of metal was giving out sparks as if showing that it wouldn't stand up to such abuse. The next thing the metal barrier would crash into was his own skin. Think of a way, Sun Chao yelled. Yi Yanqi threw a steady glance in his direction and swept her cold dark eyes over Big Brother Blade's hideous face. Then she smiled and slowly mouthed the words, exciting. Ding! Awesomeness Express +10. FCK. Big Brother Blade was livid. The young fellow actually said, exciting. He called this freaking exciting. Sure, I'll give you more excitement. He floored the accelerator and steered sharply. At that speed, even a slight shift of the steering wheel would send the car swerving. That sharp turn of the steering wheel meant that the vehicle violently flicked its tail in a soul-shattering motion. Come on, little fellow, let me show you what real excitement is. The screech of the tires resounded almost instantaneously from the top of the mountain. Everyone looked at the lights winding through the foliage with their hearts in their mouths. Ming Sai's eyes were on the lights as well. Young Master Ming, Big Brother Blade is about to attack. Ming Xie smiled, suddenly very interested in the two sets of chasing lights in the distance. Bam! Crash! At that sort of speed, even a light contact could result in death. Yi Yanqi used her hands and feet, holding her direction steady and flooring the accelerator. She was actually accelerating under this sort of condition. Sun Chao lost it. Are you sure? Someone would end up dead? Screech! The ear-piercing sound numbed his skull. Sun Chao was pale as a sheet and had his eyes tightly shut in fright. However, Yi Yanqi would only smile. She threw a sidelong glance at Big Brother Blade and saw that he was getting ready to ram into them for the second time. She took the opportunity and aggressively steered. She floored the brake and suddenly switched gears. The car that was going at top speed transitioned into a pendulous swing and, with a bang, went crashing sideways into the other vehicle. Bam! Screech! Voila! Big Brother Blade's car turned into a powerless child, suddenly overturning onto the slope by the roadside. It grunted and flipped over a few times. The headlights spun and flickered. The world was like a revolving lantern as the car flipped. FCK. Big Brother Blade had time to utter only this one word before the car somersaulted and landed on impact, knocking him into unconsciousness. Yi Yunxi narrowed her eyes as she adjusted her direction and hit the accelerator. The car threaded through and roared as it drove away. Warning! Warning! Character attribute setup does not permit a win. It does not permit a win. Shut up! I'm the only competitor left now. Tell me how I should come into a second place. The system fell silent. Damn, there was no answer. How were they going to come in second? Technology, technology, come in. Come in and provide a solution. Erg. The system was about to pass out. The finish line was right before them now, just within the blink of an eye. The car sped past the finish line and ended with a beautifully executed U-turn and pulled to a halt in front of everyone. The right side rearview mirror was gone. The entire right side of the car body had been rammed in, and the front face hung creaking. Just one look at the car and one could imagine how violent the impact was. Even then, this young lad had won. He had defeated that Big Brother Blade. My God, she actually won. Everyone cheered. Then at that moment, her Awesomeness Express notice exploded. Ding! Awesomeness Express +10. 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 Yi Yunxi had no idea how many times the alarm went off. Neither did she keep count. After all, that was what the system was there for. However, the typically terse and rigorous system had now gone all quiet. What was going on? Crashed. They couldn't have possibly given her an expired system. The system fell into silence once more. Of course not. It was definitely the latest version of the system. Except that this time, the host's Awesomeness Express points had shot through the roof and hit a historical high. Arg HH. Just displaying this alone was an explosion. They had to wait some time before the points stopped increasing. The system then said excitedly, "Congratulations, great host. Your current Awesomeness Express has increased by 1630. You've successfully removed the character attribute limitation. From now on, great host, you may freely exploit your own potential. The system in the heavens wouldn't give two hoots. Also, please open your inventory. The items in your inventory may be exchanged with Awesomeness Express only." Inventory? Yi Yunxi looked through a newly available dialog box. Inside of this, items ranged from tiny toothpicks to something as dangerous as an anti-aircraft gun. There was everything one could think of. Except that most things were grayed out because an exchange was not allowed. A utility knife costs 1000 Awesomeness Express. Why don't you go rob a bank? Then, she scrolled up and saw that there were a few mystery gift packages in there. She needed 1000 peach blossom values to exchange for those. Peach blossom value? What the heck is that? System, would you stop opening copies at your own whim? Young Master Ming's lackeys looked on, stunned, as Yi Yunxi slowly opened the car door and got out. There was terror and shock in their eyes as though they were looking at a strange creature. This person had actually driven Big Brother Blade into the ditch. That was Big Brother Blade, for heaven's sake. Who was this person? It was too frightening. Sun Chao, with what life force was still remaining in him, could not take it anymore. He opened the car door and fell limply onto the ground, retching profusely. Freaking hell, that was way too exciting. My legs have turned to jelly, alright? His cerebral cortex was overwhelmed, and all it could do was replay the scenes of speeding, making turns, and crashing. Wretch. The moment those scenes came to mind, he already wanted to throw up. Rescue. Rescue first. Young Master Ming's men swarmed towards a nearby area. Big Brother Blade was squeezed out just before the finish line. Fortunately, the car had not caught fire. They had to extricate him as soon as possible. What's your name? Ming Xie looked towards Yi Yunxi. he was now most interested in her. Yi Yunji, Yi Yunchi, at once, used her own brother's name. In any case, these siblings had some resemblance to each other. The Yi family? Wasn't the Yi family useless? Did they always have such skilled youth among them? The money. Yi Yunchi stretched out her hand, palm faced up. She was here for money, after all. Taking out a thick wad of cash from the car, Ming Xie tossed the money to her without even counting the amount. Yi Yunchi took out a share from this and held it out to Sun Chao. This is yours. Wretch. Sun Chao was still throwing up. He gestured with a wave. No, no, you take it, wretch. You, just come often to take me, wretch, and that will be good enough. In this case, Yi Yunchi raised an eyebrow. Although they wouldn't have been able to race without a car, a good car without a great driver wouldn't have enabled a win either. So she tastefully took the money. In the distance, a group of people carried a half-dead Big Brother Blade over to their side. Big Brother Blade's face was bloody, but he was conscious. When he noticed Yi Yunchi, he looked towards her fiercely. You, fellow. Oh, right, I forgot something else. Yi Yunchi kept the money aside and then sauntered over and took Big Brother Blade's hand. Don't you touch me. You've put me in this plight, and you want to shake hands. Dream on. Haha, sorry I have to disappoint you. Shaking hands is not my style, for me. Yi Yunchi smiled faintly. There was only iciness underneath that expression. Big Brother Blade felt his hair stand on ends instantly. I never allow my enemies the space to turn around. As soon as she said this, Yi Yunchi had viciously broken Big Brother Blade's right arm. The man shrieked like a pig being slaughtered from the agony. Yi Yunji, what do you think you're doing? Ming Xie could not bear to watch this further. He furrowed his brow and questioned her. I've given you the money. Haha, Yi Yunchi fiddled with her fringe that had been blown out of place by the wind. She continued calmly. Young Master Ming seems to have forgotten that you said you'd break my arm if I lost the race. I'm a person who holds grudges. Since I've won, the same would apply the other way round. Those vicious words caused everyone to shudder involuntarily. Even Ming Xi's expression changed as he looked at her. Now it was as though she was a terrifying beast. How could this Yi Yunji be so ruthless? Ding! Awesomeness Express +10. You are so dashing, great host. The system had absolutely become a fangirl, with stars in her eyes, making calls non-stop to Yi Yunchi. If its inventor saw that this had become of the system, he would be terribly distressed. System, you're no longer that cool and lofty system he designed. Meanwhile, Yi Yunchi grinned as she turned around and gathered her fringe lazily. The little braid at the back of her head curled up slightly, making her look extremely dashing. Well then anyone else wants to compete? There will be no breaking of arms or legs, just plain cash. One can always have more money, and it's fine. The world never lacked people who loved a good challenge. Although that race between Yi Yunchi and Big Brother Blade ended so tragically, there were still many people who were vying to compete with her. I'll put down 100,000. I'll place down 300,000. Hey, little fellow, I'll stake 200,000. Sure, sure. Yi Yunchi grinned as she looked at the stacks of money and beamed with glee. It was easy money from these wealthy young heirs. Let's take it one car at a time then. The course was narrow and would only accommodate 2 cars. Now that Sun Chao's car was as good as scrap, Yi Yunchi drove up in Di Junxia's luxury car. When the car made an appearance, it immediately stunned a great many of them. This little fellow had a considerable background. The girls became excited to know that there was a new addition to the racing team. He was even wealthy and good-looking to boot. Furthermore, he was a wicked pretty boy who knew how to flirt with girls. The competitors were even more excited. This was a better piece of equipment than the one she had before, so if they won, it would prove their own invincibility. The competitors were eager to try it out. When the race started, they shot off in high spirits, and inevitably, before they were even a third of their way through, they would all feel disgraced and irate. Was she really driving a car? It was more like a rocket. One glimpse of the taillights, and it was gone. Have you become invisible, or have you teleported? Do you really have to be so amazing? Screech. 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 Here. The ear-piercing sound of the braking of the car went on in Millstone Mountain, sending scores of people into a crushing defeat. At the foot of the mountain, Mo Yuxiang stared in wordless amazement at the lights flashing past, through the foliage. Holy cow, young Master D, your car is like a rocket. Although he knew that young Master D had modified the car to be pretty much invincible, he never had the chance to find out how fast it could go. After all, the city streets had speed limits, and he could not really test it. However, this drag race tonight showed him what the car was capable of. What would he do now? He was tempted to try it just by looking at it. Seeing that another round of race was starting, Di Junxi smiled faintly and got into the driver's seat. Mo Yuxiang quickly got back into his seat as well. Just as he had fastened his seatbelt, the two cars in a race came shooting up. Di Junxi started up his car without a moment's hesitation and gave chase. There was initially only Yi Yunqi's car on the racecourse, but now another car suddenly started rearing up behind her, prompting her to pull away reflexively. Yi Yunqi glanced at the rearview mirror and saw that it was another luxury car that had come up behind her, not too different from the one she was driving. Furthermore, it was a modified car, as well. Tisk, coming in halfway. Having spent some effort to unlock her character attribute, she wouldn't let anyone else beat her now. Her feet coordinated seamlessly, shifting and changing gear in a fluid motion. The car was like an extension of her body, whooshing through the night. Screech. The ear-piercing sounds of braking cars could be heard from the distant hillside. That sound was hasty and shrill. There wasn't even a need to look. Just by listening, one would be able to tell that it was a mad driver. The lights of the cars flashed amidst the thick foliage. The speed of the other car was no less than Yi Yunqi's. It was even faster at times. How impressive! Who could that be? Not one of us, we're all here. Ming Xie was compelled to look too. In less than a minute, a limited edition sports car had steadily caught up to Yi Yunqi and tailed her tightly. Who was that? Someone this skilled had to be an imposing person. He had to invite this person to the Ming residence. Screech. The deafening sound was accompanied by the roar of the engine. The two cars came in almost at the same time. It was impossible to tell with the naked eye who came in first and who came in second. Yi Yunqi did a playful wolf whistle. Although she did not wish to admit it, this person was indeed a strong opponent. She wondered who it was. As she opened the car door and stepped out, she saw the door of the other car swinging open as well. Di Junxi got out of the driver's seat. Under the moonlight, she saw Di Junxi wearing a simple white shirt and long casual trousers, looking extremely capable. The top button of his shirt was left unbuttoned, revealing the exquisite curve of his collarbone. He glanced in her direction, indifferent, domineering. That look in his dark eyes was showy. They were deeper and darker than the night. One look was all it took for a person to fall into them completely and helplessly. This man smelled of power, fresh and showy, like a gorgeous saber in motion. His talent was plain for all to see. It was Di Junxi, young Master D. Ming Xi's pupils shrank back slightly. He did not expect the man to make an appearance here. This was the sort of place that first-rate families would look upon with disdain, and they would unlikely come. To what honor do we owe young Master D's visit? Di Junxi looked at him indifferently. His pretty face was almost bewitching, inadvertently bestowing a sense of loftiness in him. Arrogance was in his blood. Who was that driver? His drawl was cold and distant, and he spoke as though all these people were far beneath him, unworthy of a glance. Ming Xi's expression turned a little ugly. None of the people in the Yan kingdom would matter to Di Junxi if he so wished. This was the sort of power the Di family wielded. Hence, he intensely disliked being second to anyone. Yi Yunji, come over here. Ming Xie gestured to Yi Yunqi to go over his side. Di Junxi turned to look at her apathetically. His eyes were dark and brooding as he scrutinized her. He seemed to be looking at her without seeing her. This was the same feeling he gave her the first time they met at the exercise. Cold, ruthless, aloof, but with scrutiny in his eyes. Yi Yunji, Di Junxi repeated that name with amusement. There was a slight twinkle in his dark eyes as he looked in her direction. Yi Yunxi suddenly became nervous. Her well-trained and developed instinct was alerted. There was danger lurking underneath. At that moment, she even felt that perhaps Di Junxi had seen through everything, including her disguise, and that he would completely blow her cover before all these people. Nevertheless, there was nothing for her to fear, because she was now Yi Yunji, and of course, unaware of whom this Di Junxi was. She smiled unconsciously and turned to look at all those who had lost the races, saying, "The money. You are really impressive, here's your 100,000. As the wads of money came in, Yi Yunxi did not bother to count them. She tossed them into the car. Behind her, that intense gaze on her back made her feel uneasy. "This car, it's yours?" Di Junxi's presence was invasive. His tall and broad physique loomed over her and overwhelmed her. He placed his large hand over the roof of the car and bent over slightly as he mouthed these words with his thin lips next to her ears. A sense of danger suddenly came over her, and it penetrated every cell in her body. She felt an unfamiliar aggressiveness as the man swept his eyes over her face slowly. It was as though his gaze carried hooks that tore through the surface of her skin. Such a strong presence. No, my sister brought this home. She might as well go all the way since she was pretending. Your sister? The man ruminated on those words as he put his other hand across her shoulders. A wicked smile played on his face as he whispered in a suggestive and seductive tone into her ears. Your sister is a real beauty. Ding. Private room triggered. Peach blossom in full bloom. Peach blossom value +10. System. FCKU. Yi Yunxi was livid. At this critical moment, what was this peach blossom that suddenly went in full bloom? She was supposed to be a male. Where was this peach blossom value coming from? Was Di Junxi gay? However, he was only saying that her sister was a beauty. He wasn't even praising Yi Yunji, whom she was disguised as. No matter which way she looked at it, the straight male was still the best. So what was the system's issue, triggering this peach blossom in full bloom private room? Oddly, the system, who would make an appearance to act cute or throw a little tantrum in the past, had now gone silent. It was behaving all cautious and prim and proper now. You're not a bad driver. Tell your sister that when she turns up to return my car 3 days from now, she should include interest. Having said this, the man turned to leave. Hey. Yi Yunxi called out to him, flashing a dazzling smile at him. Don't you dare mistreat my little sister, or I'll blow up your skull. Raising her fist in a gesture of provocation with a dazzling smile on her face, Yi Yunxi looked like a calf who knew no fear. In the eyes of some, this seemed as if a newborn calf feared no tiger. No, it's trying to shave the dragon's beard, courting death. Who was that? That was the young Master D, the elite of the elites among the Sword of the Empire. A man whom others were mindful of giving way and being polite to. Who was this young lad, appearing out of nowhere with his limited edition car, climbing over the man? He dares to talk to young Master D like that. He's going to die a horrible death. He thinks too highly of himself. Even Mo Yuxiang decided to sit back, waiting to watch the entertainment unfold now. This little fellow was done for. Only Di Junxi was standing there with half a smile now. There was a hint of wickedness in his eyes. Not only was he not angry, but it was more of the contrary. There was ambiguity in his tone as he said, "Mistreat? Like how?" Everyone fell silent. Young Master D wasn't angry. He was actually in the mood to tease the young lad. What did he mean by mistreat? It was a very suggestive notion. Young Master D, are you all right? Mo Yuxiang reached out in an attempt to check if young Master D was running a fever. He was ready to brew some medicine. What sort of affection is an old man like you sowing for such a young lad in the middle of the night? It's time for his medicine. Yi Yunxi snorted icily before she turned around and opened the car door. Then she drove away. She didn't realize that the man was serious. However, she made a decent haul tonight. She had gained more than 5,000 in Awesomeness Express and 1 million in cash. It looked like she could do this again day after day. Even after Yi Yunxi had driven off, Di Junxi's gaze followed the car like a meteorite hurtling across the skies. Her beautiful figure during the race haunted his mind endlessly. Her driving skills were unexpectedly impressive. She wanted to blow his skull, Di Junqi's smile grew even more bewitching now, like wildly flourishing blossoms. He broke third brother Blade's arm. That's right, and said something about taking what was owed to him. He was ruthless. The rest of the crowd said in agreement. The youth was too cruel, and thinking about it was still sending chills down their spines. Of course, she was ruthless. Di Junxi looked even more amused now. Slowly, he turned towards Ming Xie and said flatly, if one wanted to get into Royal Duke, they'd need the level of consciousness she had. Ming Xie frowned. As he nodded, a look of disdain and indifference crossed his face. As long as young Master Di wasn't there to vie him for the lad. The more they had people of Yi Yunji's caliber, the better. It was not until dawn that the crowd on Millstone Mountain started to disperse. Daytime held no meaning for them. It was nighttime that gave life to these restless youths. However, from this day onward, Yi Yunji had become part of the Millstone Mountain race for the next 3 days. Having gone through so much trouble to secure a car for 3 days, how could she waste a single moment? Of course, she would have to turn up every day. For 3 nights, Yi Yunji owned the racecourse on Millstone Mountain. She took the lead in every race, big or small. Not only did she win hard cash, but she also won the admiration of many girls and became their idol. Sun Chao was all over her. He expressed, in school, I'm most convinced by your little sister, but here, I'm most convinced by you, boss. Please take me under your wings, will you be my teacher? This, again? Yi Yunji twirled her braided hair and replied, my little sister can do this too. I taught her. Let her teach you. Yunji knows? That's impressive. Sure, no problem. Sun Chao was satisfied with this. It was the same for Yi Yunji. After all, she had managed to earn herself more than 4 million, and her awesomeness express had gone up to 15,000. Having money in hand felt really good. Having money would, of course, embolden a person. The first thing Yi Yunji did was to repay her debt. Of course, only a fool would repay in full. When Yi Yunji shoved 100,000 in Big Brother Wang's face, the man became furious. Someone had actually dared to shove money in his face like that? When he had a brighter look at the person standing before him, he grimaced reflexively and retreated a step without a word. He was terrified at once. What choice had he now that the game had reversed? This young lady was such a good fighter. That aside, she was good at extorting money. She was terrifying. I've paid up for the month. You know what you need to do. I know, Big Brother Zhuang jeered, but inside, he was chiding himself. Freaking hell, is there any debt collector in this world who's in a more pathetic position than this? I definitely will not trouble you without any good reason, Miss Yi. Even then, he had to flatter her because he didn't wish to be beaten up further. Chirp, chirp, chirp. It seemed that debt collectors were becoming a vulnerable group. It was a high-risk industry. When Yi Yunji left, Big Brother Zhuang's men came crowding him. No way, Big Brother Zhuang, is this money fake? Could it be that the top and bottom notes are real with toilet paper sandwiched between? Could it be paper burned as offerings to the dead? The Yi family was so poor that they could hardly pay their rent. Where did they get this money to repay their debt? Hence, these must be fake notes. Surely it would all turn into leaves. Are you guys freaking joking? Big Brother Zhuang could no longer put up with this stupidity. One at a time, he hit the back of their heads. Is there hay in their skulls or something? Could an average person turn leaves into cash? Paper burned as offerings to the dead was possible, though. Big Brother Zhuang tut-tutted as he stared at the cash he held in his hand. Cautiously, he broke open the seal and started to count the banknotes, 1 note at a time. Aha, the feel of the banknote. It was definitely not fake. Whichever way one observed, it still looked like they were fresh from a bank. They definitely weren't saved piece by piece. He counted till the last piece. Exactly 100,000, not a cent more, not a cent less. Freaking hell, it's exactly 100,000. No way. Does the Yi family actually own a private vault? How is this possible? The Yi family is as poor as church mice. Otherwise, why would the boss ask us to watch Yi Junpo closely? Isn't it all for the fear that he wouldn't pay up? But, it seems like we can drop this worry now. Everyone turned subconsciously to look at Big Brother Zhuang. As to what they should do now, the boss should decide. Big Brother Zhuang was expressionless as he put away his money. Then he spoke, just like what Miss Yi says, "Do not come round bothering me with no good reason, now scram." Everyone fell silent. That was it? They didn't even have to keep a close watch on her then. Fine, fine. Either way was fine, as long as they were able to repay the debt. Big Brother Zhuang quickly left with his men, deciding not to further bother the great Miss Yi. Aha, that was that. Although she had to earn a living, the morning training sessions had to continue. She jumped in fright when she opened the door and saw Yi Yunji, who looked like he was sleepwalking. "Big brother, what's up?" Yi Yunji yawned and said, "I'll come for a run with you. You're a girl. It's dangerous at this time of the morning. The streets are still empty. Aha, let's go." Yi Yunji could hardly keep his eyes open, and yet he was so meticulously caring. The girl was stumped, but on the other hand, she felt that having such a brother didn't seem too bad at all. Except, having run less than 300 meters, Yi Yunji already couldn't go on. He felt that his lungs were about to explode. Do you run this far every day?" Yi Yunji was speechless as she turned around. From where they were, she could see the windows of their home. It was not that far. "Should I go ahead?" No, you can't." Yi Yunji grabbed her hand and said, Go with me to the field. I just need to keep you in my sight, and that's good enough." They had the thugs around their apartment just 2 days ago. As a big brother, he had to protect his little sister. Finally, they came to the field. Yi Yunji's head dipped as he fell with his face on the ground. Struggling, he held his hand out to Yi Yunji. "Big brother will protect you. Erg." Then, the great big brother collapsed. Yi Yunji brought Yi Yunji home on her back. The moment she placed him on the sofa, Yi Yunji couldn't help but feel utterly miserable. "I'm not good enough to be your big brother. Actually having my little sister piggyback me all the way home, it's shameful." Yi Yunji became speechless. What else could she say? "It's no big deal. If you keep up with the morning training sessions, you'll be the one piggybacking me by the end of the year." "Really?" Yi Yunji looked up with hopeful surprise. "Aha! Who knew if that would really happen, but they'd just have to wait and see." Yi Yunji was happy to hear that, though, and suddenly felt much better. "Oh, I used your name to undertake a small task, so if anyone asks, big brother, just play along." "No problem." Yi Yunji had by now fully recovered and was in high spirits. He found himself showing off some of his own drawings. "Yunji, look at this drawing of an elephant I did. What do you think?" "It's great, haha, of course. Your big brother is good at this. What do you think, would you like to learn?" Yi Yunji meant it only as a passing remark, thinking that it would be unlikely for his little sister to wish to learn drawing from him. After all, her only interest was to show off her own beauty and capability. "Sure, why not? Aha, it's okay. I understand." "Huh? What did you just say?" "I said, sure. Come, big brother. Teach me how to draw." This time around, there was no need for Yi Yunji to try hard to convince Yi Yunji. She was the one who pulled him along to the studio and laid out the paper and pencils. The girl lifted her gaze. Her dark eyes were sparkling like a clear and transparent lake. "Let's start, sister. Are you possessed?" Yi Yunji scratched his head. He turned around, took an egg, and placed it before his sister, saying, "Let's start you off by drawing an egg. The most important thing in doing art is to grasp shapes. Do it slowly." Yi Yunji nodded and pinched the pencil between her fingers. Slowly, she started to draw. She had a good enough understanding of her big brother to imitate him. However, if she couldn't draw, she'd be quickly exposed if anyone should probe in the future. Hence, to be safe, it was best for her to learn how to draw. Seeing that it was about time for school, Yi Yunji strapped on her satchel to leave for school. Just as she went downstairs, she saw Di Junxi, who had been hanging around there for an unknown period. 3 days were up. Did he have to be so on time? How would it feel to see a luxury car parked in a shabby and run-down lane? So this is how it feels. Under the morning light, the coat of paint on the superior vehicle gleamed like it had been coated with a crystal layer. Its shine was blinding. The man in the neatly pressed suit leaned casually against the car door, hands in his trouser pockets. His beautiful, almost bewitching face was without expression. Although he was merely standing there, his presence was so powerful that she found herself staring at him intensely. They were only a few steps away from each other, but they were in two different worlds. This man was in a different world. It's been 3 days. Di Junxi narrowed his eyes and looked at her with an unfathomable half-smile. Yi Yanxi drew out the car keys slowly and held it out to him. Di Junxi did not take the car keys from her fingers. Instead, he tilted his head slightly to the side and pointedly stared at her with amusement in his dark eyes. Nevertheless, those eyes gave off that same odd sense of danger. Interest. Tisk. That's right. The man had mentioned this before. It certainly didn't feel right having to share one's own hard-earned money with another. Yi Yanxi searched her pockets and found 2 50-cent coins. She took them out and pressed them into the man's hand. Good things come in pairs. Di Junxi fell into silence. How about strangling this little lass to death? She noticed that as he stared at the coins, his expression darkened. Yi Yanxi shrugged and said, "Don't underestimate 50 cents. Without it, you might not be able to get into a restroom and die as a result." Di Junxi remained silent once more. Someone's vibes turned icy. After a moment, Di Junxi already could not help but laugh out loud. This little monster, was she doing it on purpose? He lifted his gaze nonchalantly and sized her up. He looked at her home, the old apartment building, and said, "You made 4.32 million with my car, so why can't we have an even split?" Yi Yanxi raised an eyebrow. So he knows, however, if he expected her to part with any of that money, then too bad for him. "I'll owe you. All the money's been given to my dad to repay his debt." "I have no money. What can you do to me?" Yi Yanxi smiled faintly. Di Junxi did not lose his cool but looked at her steadily. After a moment, he opened the car door and said, "Get in." "Fine, I'll get in and see what you're up to." She got into the car without any hesitation. Di Junxi floored the accelerator and sped off. The car flew along the road. Yi Yanxi squinted as she relished the speed. Unconsciously, she took note of how the man maneuvered the vehicle. The man was as skillful as herself in operating the car, and there was a sort of pleasure in observing him. His bold and resolute style made him look more like he was fighting a battle than driving a car. She felt a rush watching him. The car came to a decisive stop at a hotel's parking lot. This was the classiest hotel in the local area. A meal there would cost a hefty 5-figure sum. It wouldn't take much to deplete her small earnings. Was he planning to empty her pockets with a meal? "I don't have any money on me," she declared her position again in a severe tone. Di Junxi sneered. Disdain was written all over his face. He strode off ahead. Yi Yanxi could only follow behind him. It appeared like he wasn't out to bankrupt her with a meal. Young Master Di. As they stepped into the lobby, the manager was already waiting and greeted him respectfully. Di Junxi grunted in response and walked right into the lift. Yi Yanxi tried to catch up. The man was tall and had long limbs, so it took a considerable effort to keep up. Yi Yanxi was stunned when they arrived at the private room. The bodyguards were clustered around an old master with snow-white hair. The old man now looked at them with a joyous expression. Suddenly, she had a bad feeling. "True enough," Di Junxi said in an indifferent tone, "this is my girlfriend." Ding! Peach blossom value +10. Yi Yanxi didn't know what to say. "Ah, shut up, system. What sort of peach blossom value is this? Plus, what's the use of having peach blossom value? You can exchange it for critical tools." The system's little voice was sweet beyond comparison. Yi Yanxi felt her head swelling. This scenario felt like a banquet with ill intentions. Would she be able to slip away? Di Junxi threw a glance at her. "You may go, but cough up the interest, it stays here." Yi Yanxi squeezed her little pockets. She didn't have much money in her previous life, and in this life she was still a pauper. Cash was a scarce commodity. Forget it. After all, She just needed to pretend to be his girlfriend. As long as it didn't disadvantage her. A person like Lee Jung-si could have any girl he wanted. He had a few luxury cars. He wouldn't like someone like her. Yi Yunchi was a smart girl. Of course, she immediately hung onto Lee Junxi's arm and flashed the old man a generous smile, saying, "Granddad, how are you? I'm Yi Yunchi." The atmosphere strangely froze over. The old man looked up and gave the girl a glance. He looked a little embarrassed. Obviously, this wasn't one of the shortlisted girls on the matchmaking list. She didn't appear to belong to any of the elite sort of the Empire families. And she definitely didn't belong to any of the families he could recall. So, Lee Jung-si, where on earth did you pick up this vixen? Are you just making this up? Furthermore, she's wearing her school uniform, so she's obviously still a kid. Little lass, where do you study? The old man spoke as the bodyguards listened attentively. Empire Middle School. The old master nodded. It was neither a good nor a bad school. And what school are you aiming to go to, Junyao? Oh, the old master nodded satisfactorily. Junyao was not a bad school, worthy enough for a daughter-in-law of the D family. And your family? When he asked this, Yi Yunchi smiled and deliberately blinked her eyes. She said happily, "My father's a director, but he hasn't produced a film. On the contrary, he was cheated by some people and lost 2 million. I have a big brother. He's jobless and loves the creative arts. Oh, and we live in the slums. I can hardly afford my school fees this year." Everyone fell into silence. From where did young Master D pick up someone of this quality? This was way too horrifying. The old master almost needed an extra quick effect heart rescue pill. Shouldn't he look for someone of equal status? Even if it was not someone of equal status, at least someone from an ordinary family. What sort of family did this girl come from? The Yan kingdom encouraged a military tradition, and the man was a film director, and even got cheated. Her brother was jobless, slums. The old master was on the verge of a breakdown. Lee Jung-si immediately blew his top deep inside too. He stared at Yi Yunchi icily, with a look in his eyes that was verging on danger. This girl, she needed to be taught a lesson. The girl shrugged, giggled, and stared back at him. Your grandaunt here is speaking the truth. Have you got a problem with it? This, haha. Yunchi's family is in a rather special situation. Butler Zung laughed heartily and tried to smooth things over as he said, "You're still schooling then. Look, why don't you run along to school now? Don't be late." Yi Yunchi happily waved at Lee Jung-si and smiled as she left the room. Consider the interest paid. They shouldn't come round to bother her ever again. Passing her as a girlfriend, Yi Yunchi wouldn't be doing such things that gave her no advantages. Rubbing the 250 cents in her pocket, Yi Yunchi suddenly felt like it would be tough to lose those 2 little coins. Because this hotel was really far from school, and if she didn't take public transport, she'd be late for sure. Forget it, she would just bill it to Lee Jung-si. You owe your big sister here 250 cents. With some effort, she managed to squeeze herself onto public transport. It was peak hour for work, so it was crowded. Yi Yunchi took a deep breath and worked her way to the back to get herself a seat. Hey, the 2 people in the seat in front of her looked like Dad and his assistant. Yi Yunchi leaned forward. It really was Dad. What were they talking about? She leaned further forward. Director Yi, what do we do now? It's hard getting money. Zhang Yu had been assisting Yi Junpo for 3 years, and even though he had not been getting paid, he did not leave. This was because he had a passion for the industry. Now, the situation didn't look too optimistic. No matter which way one looked at it, it seemed like the director's name had been sullied. Those people are despicable. We haven't even started filming. Why can't we get a refund? Zhang Yu's eyes reddened. It had taken a lot of hard work for them to get where they were now. They had everything, and money, but they still weren't able to make a film. It was infuriating. Don't worry, we'll think of a way. At this point, Yi Junpo turned around to comfort Zhang Yu. However, Yi Yunchi knew there was no solution. It seemed she had guessed right. Dad was sabotaged, so there was no way he could have gotten any money back. It makes me angry just to think about it. I really feel like beating them up. Zhang Yu gritted his teeth. Yi Junpo could only give him a pat on his shoulder. I've arrived. Don't be rash, I'll think of a way. Yi Junpo waved as he got off the bus. Seeing that the seat next to Zhang Yu was now empty, Yi Yanqi squeezed herself over and sat down. Big brother Zhang, still troubled over the matter. Zhang Yu looked up when he heard her voice. Then he saw Yi Yanqi slipping into the seat next to him. Hey, Miss Yi? He had some impression of Yi Junpo's two kids, but it seemed like this young daughter of his changed a lot in the last few years. Dad just called me. He said you should let me have the list of names of the people who refused to pay up. Yi Yanqi smiled. Huh? Let you have the list? But Director Yi already knows. Dad wants a record. Oh, I see. Zhang Yu drew out a piece of paper without giving it a second thought. It was a record of where the money had been spent, addresses, and contact details. Here, keep it safe. Don't lose it. Don't worry. Yi Yanqi smiled at him sweetly, her face lighting up and glowing so exuberantly that it put Zhang Yu in a daze. Was Miss Yi this good looking? Really, the changes girls go through as they grow up is tremendous. Oh, why did you stop filming? Initially, we had settled on a script. That was why your father raised funds for the filming. Having worked hard to get the money and put everything in place, the screenwriter disappeared. Disappeared? That's right. Zhang Yu clenched his jaw and continued. I'm sure someone sabotaged us, and furthermore, when we lost the script, the actors started to give excuses and said they weren't going to turn up. Without a script and actors, how could we continue? Zhang Yu lamented. So this was what had happened. Yi Yanqi frowned. Ding. Task trigger. Start filming. Help Yi Junpo remove obstacles so that filming can start. Reward. Awesomeness Express plus 1000. Physical Strength plus 10. 10,000 Awesomeness Express points were no big deal. She could earn that quickly, but this physical strength. Yi Yanqi narrowed her eyes. She had trained for 3 days and only got 1 point. It would rise to 2 after she had eaten. Now, this would give her 10 points. That wasn't bad. Ah, I'm getting out here for school. Bye, big brother Zhang. Stay safe. Yi Yanqi waved and jumped out of the bus. The problem was with the script and the actors, hence, she would only need to get these in place. Yi Yanqi smiled. It was a reckless smile. She might as well focus her energy on the script since she already knew what was going to be taught. There were people selling scripts on the internet, but those were crap and expensive. Furthermore, people wouldn't put a good script up for sale on the internet. It would be impossible to try and hunt down the screenwriter. Time was of the essence. However, she did have a ready script. An assignment from the past. It just needed a little polishing up to be an excellent film with a spy and war theme. Except that there wouldn't be enough time to write it up. A script could get up to 30,000 words, at least. To make it effective, it had to be 10,000 at the very least. That would take a month to write. How could she turn an idea into a script in the shortest time possible? That's right, didn't she have a new inventory? She took a look at it, hoping to find something. Finally, she saw a tiny square with the words, Ghostwriter. Cost. Awesomeness Express. 10,500. Yi Yanqi fell silent. Did the system set the price based on how many Awesomeness Express points she had? She had spent a 3-night drag racing grind to earn all those Awesomeness Express, and now it would be wiped out in a stroke. What other ways were there, though? Without thinking further, Yi Yanqi hit the confirm button. At once, a new script appeared on the desk. She flipped through it. Indeed, it was that combat mission story in her mind. Even the most exciting and thrilling part was precisely the same. Whatever she thought, the system had written. Not bad. That was the first time the host had praised it. The system felt elated and swelled with pride, boasting, of course. It was exchanged with 10,500 Awesomeness Express. The system will ensure that the great host feels right at home. Well, make a few changes here then. There's no need to make it so real and practical. Art, you know, art, it's from life, but larger than life. You have to make it more thrilling. The system became flabbergasted. blame its own big mouth. Now it's gotten itself a lot more work for nothing. Poor me. The other students who were observing Yi Yanxi noticed that she had not been attending to proper duties as always. They instantly felt peeved. They thought she had turned over a new leaf. Now, it appeared that she had only become prettier, but inside, she was as much of a piece of trash as ever. It was her. She trashed Yu Zihang's car. That's right. I haven't seen Yu Ziyang for a few days. I'm sure his dad slaughtered him. All thanks to this piece of trash. And this piece of trash has the audacity to turn up in school. But who was that guy who came looking for her the other day? He was super good looking. Suddenly, the classroom fell into silence. Since no one knew who that person was, everyone saw envy and jealousy in everyone else's expression. Tisk. Why do good things always happen to that piece of trash? Ding. Awesomeness Express +10. Ding. Awesomeness Express +10. Ding. Awesomeness Express +10. Ding. Awesomeness Express +10. She got Awesomeness Express from being envied? Ha, that was quite an irony. After school, Yi Yanxi picked up her satchel and was about to leave. Yanxi, Healy and Moxie dashed up to her and said, "Let's go back together." Healy and Moxie was elated. Of late, it seemed like Yanxi was becoming more and more dashing and brilliant. "Oh, are you interested in acting in a film, me?" Healy and Moxie was stunned. I've never acted in a film." "It's no big deal, I can teach you. Do you wanna? I'll give you the female lead role." "Oh, yes, I'm willing." Healy and Moxie nodded. She wasn't afraid of filming or whatever else as long as it was with Yanxi. "When do we start? I'll contact you again." Having settled the female lead, there were a few more important roles to fill. How about Wang Tingting and Sun Chao? Yi Yanxi contemplated as she walked home. Upon returning home, she saw Yi Junpo sitting on the sofa decadently. Obviously, he had not been successful in earning any money today. However, she had gotten rid of Big Brother Zhuang. He wouldn't make another appearance this month. "Dad, this is a script that a friend of mine had written. She's asked my help to take a look. I don't really know. Why don't you help me?" Yi Yanxi held her script out to him. Yi Junpo paused for a moment, hesitating as he remembered that he could no longer make films. However, looking at the script, he couldn't help but reach for it. Once he started reading, he couldn't put it down. This spy and war theme was riveting. It's excellent. Yi Junpo slapped his own thighs so hard that he grimaced in pain. When he raised his head, he realized it was already past 10. "Is it all right?" Yi Yanxi looked up from where she was sitting at the dining table doing her homework. Skipping class was all right, but homework had to be done. "This is simply great." Yi Junpo held the script in his hand as he walked around the room twice and sat down again. "This is completely professional. My God, it gets my heart pumping just reading the script. If I made a film, it would be a box office hit. Ding. Awesomeness Express +10. Yanxi, your friend is impressive. Is she selling this script? Dad will buy it. I want to make this film." Yi Yanxi smiled and put her hands at the back of her head, saying, he was worried that he hadn't done a good job of it. "It's not a big deal, there's no need to pay." "No way. This is the fruit of his labor. Not only is the author's hard work every word, but it's also the result of a lot of thinking behind it. We have to respect the outcomes of other people's hard work. Tell your friend that when the film launches, I will give him 1% of the earnings." 1% was not a small sum. It was common knowledge that the actors hardly get paid 1% of the earnings. But the actors, Yi Junpo hesitated. This spy and war-themed film required 2 male leads. Although the female lead roles part wasn't huge, it would be expensive to hire actors. "Dad, what if I took the role of the spy?" Yi Yanxi, who had changed into her male disguise now, smiled as she leaned against the door like a hooligan. Her longish fringe covered the end of her spirited eyes. Her braid sat at the back of her head like a rabbit's fluffy tail. Her oversized male's clothing made her look somewhat suave. The heavy chain around her neck and accessories, together with the spider lilies and crucifix tattoo, made the youth look quite wicked. If it weren't for the person calling out, "Dad," Yi Junpo would never have guessed that this was his precious daughter. He would have thought this was the no-good son of some family, and the boy must have seduced his precious little princess. However, this seductive bad boy was actually Yi Yunqi in disguise. You to take on the role? Yi Junpo walked a couple of circles around the girl to study her. The more he looked, the happier he felt. Sure, we can give it a try. This look was very befitting of Liu Yi in the script. Like a hooligan, highly intelligent, treading the middle path between the black and white, light and dark. However, he was also dashing, and with one look, would make the girls go weak in the knees. But what about the other male lead? Yi Junpo started to hesitate. Among the two male leads, one was a spy, uninhibitedly evil. The other was a super upright police officer who was decidedly valiant, high-spirited, and sharp. Taking a look across the entertainment circle, one would be hard-pressed to find a person to fill this role. Even if there was a person who could, he was way above age and would not be able to take on such a young character. I've found this person for you, Dad. I'll bring him next time. Oh, and, in my male disguise, I'm known as Yi Yunji. Yi Junpo started to get more bewildered. What of your big brother then? He can't go back into your mother's womb, you know? However, would anyone really be able to portray such an upright and dynamic character? He was starting to get curious. What sort of person would his daughter bring to him? You're saying you want me to act in a film? Wang Tingting and Sun Chao exchanged glances. Master, are you sure? Sun Chao started to hesitate. That's right. If you guys help me complete the filming for this movie, I'll teach you guys how to pass your exams to get into Zhenyao. How's that? Zhenyao. Their eyes lit up at once. They were going to be taking their exams this year. Those who did well would enter Zhenyao. Those who didn't would be streamed into other schools, like agriculture, arts, physical education, and such. If they were to get into Zhenyao, then there was a possibility of raising their status to become the sword of the empire. We want to be a part of the film. Are you guys mad, going around creating trouble with this piece of trash? Yi Zhongwen, standing next to them, could not bear to listen to this conversation any further and laughed sarcastically. She thinks she can get into Zhenyao based merely on her performance at the exercise? Have you guys been brainwashed? Hey, aren't you the person who lost your place in the competition after I hurled some pebbles at you? Yi Yanxi pretended to be surprised, as though she only just realized his presence. If I came in second last at the finish line, you must have been out of the course before you touched the finish line. Yi Yanxi smiled faintly. Yi Zhongwen turned red at once as everyone looked at him. Damn, he had almost forgotten that Yi Wanting had come in last, and furthermore, this piece of trash had him disqualified, not with firearms but with a handful of pebbles. Ah, how embarrassing. Ding, Awesomeness Express +10. Yi Zhongwen, who was a person obsessed with success, fell silent now. Yi Yanxi snorted and turned around languidly. If he didn't have the capability, he should just shut up. Otherwise, he's just slapping himself hard in the face. Let's find the time, I'll take you there to have a look. Sure. The two agreed readily. What was acting in a film if that could get them into Zhenyao? When they left, Yi Zhongwen pouted and said, since you insist on getting into trouble with this piece of trash, I'll make sure there will come a time when all of you end up crying. The same luxury car, the same person, is parked at the same place at the school gate. This time around, everyone knew whom the guy was waiting for. They didn't even have to take another look. He was waiting for Yi Yanxi. How did this piece of trash get to know someone like this guy, who possessed an aura of a massive celebrity? Everyone was envious. Di Junxi glanced at his watch and knitted his sword-like eyebrows ever so slightly. The high collar of his shirt was wrapped tightly around his neck, giving him an air of cold asceticism. His long legs leaning lightly against the car door were so perfect that his face resembled a flawless sculpture. As he stood there looking around with his deep and dark eyes, his presence was hard to ignore. What a commanding presence. Someone like this, even if you were to throw him among the firefighting troops, you could spot him immediately. He stands out too much. Yi Yanxi spotted him at once. She could even guess why he was here. She had made him look bad in the morning, and he was here to take revenge. However, even knowing the danger, Yi Yanqi grinned as she walked up to him. Since she was planning to coax this person into playing the male lead role in her father's new film. Seeing her cooperativeness had surprised Di Junxi a little. What was this wee lass up to this time? As he opened the car door, Di Junxi placed a hand on the door and looked towards the girl. Drive? You drive. Yi Yanqi smiled like a little fox and continued, I want to experience what it's like being a big boss. Di Junxi fell into silence. Now she was taking him for a chauffeur? He had not yet found one person in all of the Yan Kingdom who was fit to be his driver. Did this little lass find so much pleasure in infuriating him? If it weren't that he needed her help today, he would have undoubtedly pinched this little lass face till it swelled. He got into the driver's seat with a gloomy expression. With a practiced switch of the gear, the car roared and sped away. The students around the school entrance looked wistfully at the luxury car disappearing into the horizon while Wang Tingting and Sun Chao wore a stunned expression on their faces. Why'd I suddenly feel that hanging around Yanqi will get me into Zhenyao for sure? Me too, the two of them rubbed their faces, trying to bring themselves back to reality. Based on their results, there was no way they could get into Zhenyao. Both of them had been ousted by Yi Wanting in the competition. Sun Chao was even injured, which meant deduction of points. But Yi Yanqi came in only second last. Perhaps she really did have a way. Let's work hard and do a good job with the film then. Aha, let's go. When he parked the car, Di Junxi looked out of the car window nonchalantly. Neither he nor Yi Yanqi spoke. They were by the sea. The view wasn't terrible, especially during sunset, like now. The magnificent colors of the setting sun painted the ocean with countless shades of orange and red. It was gorgeous. Yi Yanqi opened the car door and stepped out. The ocean breeze whipped her long dark hair as the sun started to sink into the horizon. The red and orange hues graduated into a sternal stretch of blues and purples. The dazzling girl in uniform was a soul-stirring sight as she smiled faintly. Unconsciously, Di Junxi's attention became fully fixed on her, from her snow-pale skin to her high nose bridge. Suddenly realizing what he was doing, he furrowed his forehead. Then he opened the car door and stepped out too. About this morning, I hope you will consider it. He took out a cigarette and, lowering his head, lit it. It was a simple movement, but it made him look uncompromising and overbearing. When he looked up, his sharp and dark eyes had already been slightly obscured by the thin cloud of smoke. Too seductive. Tisk. This man, why was he like a walking rush of hormones? So tempting. Yi Yanqi's soft fingertips brushed against her ear as she tried to tame her silky tresses to sit behind it. In our household, the rule is to do things early, including looking for a potential wife. I don't wish to get married just yet, hence, it's just a contract. What say you? Why don't you want to get married? Given Di Junxi's qualifications in every aspect, people would have fought over him before he was born, not to mention marriage. I've said in the past, the Yan Kingdom is still weak. I will not get married until and unless we become a strong nation. The man lifted his head slightly and looked at the water's expanse before them through strands of wind-swept hair. The sun had sunk below the horizon, the seas were growing murky. Right now, he seemed to be holding back his imposing manner, as though at this moment, there wasn't a single person in the world as iron-willed as him. At once, Yi Yanqi's passion rose within her as well. She looked in the direction the man was staring at towards the vast, deep ocean and asked, "Then what would you consider strong?" The man looked up, his neck forming a tight arc. Opening his mouth slightly, he let out a puff of smoke. Beneath the darkening clouds, the man's posture was seductive, but also exceptionally unwavering. He lifted his gaze to the heavens, his beautiful face cold and bloodthirsty. War is a nation's great event, and has an impact on the life and death of a soldier. The survival of the nation is nothing to be taken lightly. Yes, Yi Yanqi could not help but applaud this thinking. The strategy of internal peace and being able to guard against external assaults was a strong position indeed. There was a subconscious gladness in her as if things that had accumulated in her previous life had finally found an outlet in this lifetime. It was like a heavy burden being lifted off her shoulders. This was real strength. The Yan Kingdom enjoyed peace and stability within the country, But what about when they stepped out of it? She had seen too much, and she understood such humiliation. Internal peace and being able to guard against external assaults. This would make them secure. Ji Jung-si, I've underestimated you. You're not that bad. The conversation immediately started on the topic. Yi Yanshi couldn't help but be really excited. But you can't do it unless you have tens of years of experience. Do you intend to be a monk for life? Ji Jung-si couldn't resist but laugh. His smile was shallow yet attractive. In the mist, the smile didn't feel genuine. It disappeared as fast as it came. He never believed in discussing this topic with a girl. These women who crowd him would only discuss clothes, accessories, movies, and fashion with him. They weren't things that he liked. What was the reason for the existence of the Sword of the Empire? Why was his family clan able to flourish? The Sword of the Empire was no longer what it was in the past when it lost its original meaning. I need more people to complete this dream together. The Yan Kingdom isn't only my country. That's true. They chatted continuously, talking about war and everything else. At night, the surface of the sea became the solid dark color of the sky as they linked together. The lights along the shoreline became the prettiest decoration there is. It was getting late. None of them wanted to leave. When they talked till they were out of topics, the atmosphere became silent once again. However, this time, they were not only not awkward, but it felt as if they were long-lost friends who had reunited. Although they weren't talking, it felt fervent. So, Ji Jung-si stepped on the cigarette to extinguish it, and he slightly lifted his head up. 3 years later, you'd be 20 years old, and it'll be the prime time to chase after your dreams. However, for these 3 years, give everything of yours to me and be my fiancé. The way the man spoke was with arrogance and power, felt like he was giving her an order instead of discussing terms with her. Yi Yanshi curved her lips and twirled her hair with her hand. She only laughed and remained silent. What terms do you have? Yi Yanshi smiled and looked back. Her beautiful eyes sparkled as if it was the most stunning galaxy. I have 3 terms. First, this matter will only be known by your family and other related people. I don't want outsiders to know, including my family. Okay. Secondly, I will try to act as deep in love and chummy as I can in front of others, but behind them, there is no close contact between us at all. Ji Jung-si hesitated for a while, but he still nodded. Okay. Thirdly, Yi Yanshi smiled and said, I want you to film a movie for me and be the leading male actor. Ji Jung-si was speechless. Did he imagine what he heard? He actually heard someone inviting him to be the leading male actor in a movie. Hee, they must have talked too much till there was ringing in his ears. If you don't agree with the 3rd term, then we don't need to talk about the other 2 above. Ji Jung-si fell silent. He didn't imagine it. It was real. You want me to be the male lead in your movie? Ji Jung-si said every word clearly. He felt like it was really unreal. Was he crazy, or was this woman crazy? Yes, you. Yi Yanshi laughed, carried her bag, and waved. Come to my house tomorrow night. I'd introduce you to the director and other actors. See you then. So that was the reason. No wonder he was talking about being his girlfriend, which would make one misunderstand. They actually had such rules in their family. Indeed, it was a family rule for every family clan. She must really thank this family rule, or else she wouldn't be able to take the chance and get him as her leading male actor. If not for Ji Junshi's status, he would break the camera if anyone asked him to help with a menial task, much more take up the role of the leading male actor. Thus, she really caught a big deal. Yi Yanshi only laughed out loud after walking far away. Well, he deserved it for continuously chasing her and not letting her off. That was the price he had to pay for being unwilling to surrender. He could obediently be her male lead. When Ji Jung-si was staring at the video in the DV, his expression was so peaceful one wasn't able to tell if he was angry or not. Even so, Mo Yuxiang had cowardly started to tremble. This woman's expression could be translated into these 5 words. I used you, so what? I just filmed it by chance. Mo Yuxiang slowly retreated. Then, Ji Jung-si only curved his lips and pressed the stop button, half smiling. The video paused at the beautiful smiling face of the young woman. Her long black hair was flying in the air, and under the streetlight, she looked as if she could fly up anytime. This little thing, should he hate her, or just accept it? This feeling of both love and hate was something he had never felt before. However, this feeling went deep into his bones, and it was unforgettable. Ding! Peach blossom value +10. After he thought in silence for a while, he became so angry, he ended up smiling. However, his smile was so cold that Mo Yuxiang started worrying about his own life. Brother, the person who messed with you was Yi Yunqi. Please do not involve the innocent bystanders too. Besides, I'm weak. The car was silent. It was so silent Mo Yuxiang felt like he wouldn't be able to say anything for the rest of his life if he didn't speak now. Are you really intending to film the movie? Di Junxi placed both of his hands behind his head, and the defined lines could be seen on his body. Did you settle whatever should be done? Mo Yuxiang was stunned. He instantly became severe. Yes, but there's always someone unhappy with it. I don't have to teach you what to do, right? The cold and emotionless words and the bloodshed tone. Di Junxi narrowed his eyes, his aura intense and scary. Young Master Di, I know what to do. Mo Yuxiang became severe as he submitted himself to Di Junxi's orders. He had been following Di Junxi ever since he was in kindergarten. He knew the ability of this man. For the Di family to be the head of the Sword of the Empire for so many years, only the people of the Di family knew how dangerous it was. Not to say, to be the first heir of such a family clan, there would be even more danger. On this journey, the weak ones might have died on the way to become the successor. As for the strong ones, they threaded on fresh blood to achieve success. Thus, he knew what to do. When she arrived home, she saw her father and elder brother sitting on the sofa. Both of their expressions didn't look good. Yi Yunqi laughed and sat between them, hooking her arms into them and asked with a smile. Two of you handsome men, what happened? Come, let this beautiful lady here save you two heroes. The two men instantly laughed. Yi Yunqi couldn't resist but tapped on her soft nose and said, only you can make father happy. Little sister was the happy pill of the family. That year, when the incident happened to the family, there were so many changes that they had to make. To be honest, the choices her father had made was for the sake of their little girl. Thus, when their little girl supported their father to continue filming, the happiest person was still her father. You can return the script to your friend. She can find a random director to sell it away. Yi Junpo poured a cup of water for himself and hid his depressed feelings. What's wrong? Yi Yunqi raised her brow. Yi Yunji swept his gaze over his father and softly said, those filming crew took the money and didn't want to return to us. Besides that, they said that they wouldn't continue to help with the film as father said that he didn't want to film, so they had arranged other things and didn't have the time to film father's movie anymore. Don't have the time? If this was planned, all they had to say was that they had never intended to help father film at all. Thus, they had never arranged some time for father at all, much more have the time to rearrange. It was all right, though. Yi Yunqi pinched the name list in her pocket and smiled. Let us settle our scores now. Yi Yunji had surprisingly found out when he had gone for morning exercise with his sister. His physical ability had increased quite a lot. Although his muscle ache hadn't stopped, he could now run 300 meters. He could even run 2 rounds in the field continuously. Haha, so amazing. When he lifted his head to take a look, his sister had already run God knows how many rounds. Her speed had been the same throughout, and her ponytail was wagging behind her head. Even the perspiration coming from her was shining. Yunqi was becoming prettier. Ding! Awesomeness Express +10. Brother, why are you not running anymore? The beautiful young lady stood before him. Yi Yunji's face was slightly red as he replied, let me rest a while. Yi Yunqi nodded and continued running. Ding! Physical strength +1. My physical strength increased again. Yi Yunqi tried using her strength, but it actually didn't gain that much. Although the physical strength she had exchanged using the Awesomeness Express only lasted for a minute, it could recover her to the optimum state. The physical strength she trained wasn't able to attain this result. According to the 2 points of physical strength, If she wanted to reach her peak, she needed tens of thousands of physical strength. I'd just train slowly then. In the early morning, Big Brother Zhuang brought along his brothers to eat fried dough sticks and drink soy milk. Suddenly, a figure flashed by, and it disturbed Big Brother Zhuang's mood to eat breakfast. Big Brother Zhuang suddenly banged the table and said, "Who is the blind person obstructing me from having my breakfast?" "Oh, it's this the Missy from the Yi family. What brought you here? Come, have a seat." At the moment, Big Brother Zhuang realized that it was Yi Yunqi. He instantly cowered. He wiped the chair and the table, invited her to sit down, and even remembered to ask, "Lady boss, bring another bowl of soy milk over. It must be the purest one. We didn't add even a drop of water." "Oh yes, Miss Yi. Do you want the sweet one or original?" "The original one. Take it away from me." Yi Yunqi didn't speak nonsense to him. She directly took the chopsticks and ate a fried dough stick. As she held onto the food, her beautiful eyes swept the area. The men's eyes, including Big Brother Zhuang, were directed at her. It was because Big Brother Zhuang had mentioned before that as long as they were able to return the money, all of them had to listen to this lady. "Do you want to earn some extra bucks?" Yi Yunqi came straight to the point. Extra bucks. Crack. A whole stack of money was slammed onto the table, and it shocked all the men around. The stack of money was $10,000. The few of them looked at one another and then looked at Big Brother Zhuang. Boss Zhuang coughed once and said, What instructions does Miss Yi have?" They were all rubbing their hands together. Why would they reject the chance of making money? "I don't have much to instruct you. I just need you to get back to what you guys have always been doing." "What?" Yi Yunji curved her lips as she prettily drank her soy milk. "Ask people to return their debts." Ding! Awesomeness Express +10. Smack! Whoosh! Swoosh! The bits flew all over, and the floor was a complete mess. The prop master cowered in a corner and shivered. He was going mad. No matter how he thought, he couldn't figure out how he had offended the Black Society. These people had started slamming and breaking things fiercely and angrily after they stepped into the place. They even had tattoos on them. No matter how they looked, they didn't seem like good people. Furthermore, people would send so much hate in this entertainment industry if someone didn't do something well. As the prop master thought, he didn't offend many people, so why was the Black Society here to crash? Big Brother. The prop master hugged onto Big Brother Zwang's leg tightly and said, "We can talk this out. Talk this out." What is this about?" "Huh? You're obviously the one who was unlucky for offending our Missy Yi." "Hey." Big Brother Zhuang grinned. With a sweep of his hand coming down, he sent the prop master flying. He kicked the waste paper bin and paper confetti filled the air at once, covering the prop master's face. "Of course, I'm here to chase down your debt. Don't I look like I'm here for money?" "Yes, you do. Yes, you do." The prop master nodded like a chick pecking furiously at grains on the ground. It was precisely because he looked like he was that the prop master was this frightened. "Just who did offend now? May I trouble you, Big Brother, to tell me who did I offend?" "Who did you offend?" Big Brother Zhuang sneered and pulled the man to his feet by grabbing his hair. He turned the man's head forcefully towards the door. At some point, a pretty and slim figure had appeared at the doorway. The girl walked in slowly, her hair floating behind her and her eyes glittering like black diamonds. She seemed ignorant of the mess on the ground. Her little leather shoes trod lightly on the debris as she sipped at a cup of hot soy milk she was holding in her hand. Her footsteps were slow and dainty. The prop master looked at her with widened eyes, petrified. This was the person he had offended. Why, he had no impression of having done that at all. Was this a newbie from some agency or a pampered little mistress of some company he collaborated with before? He thought through carefully and still had no clue. The prop master wished he could take his head down and pry open his skull so he could perform an elimination check. This little miss. Let's discuss this amiably. Let's discuss this amiably." The prop master was genuinely terrified. Yi Yunqi smiled, relishing in the aromatic aftertaste of the soy milk. She said unhurriedly, I only have one question for you. Am I, miss? Please ask. I shall not refuse to answer the toughest questions. When can we start filming Yi Junpo's movie? Yi Junpo. Instantly, the prop master felt like his brain exploded. These people were Yi Junpo's men? Wasn't the Yi family a bunch of losers? Since when did they have the capability to get the triads to support them? Although one couldn't afford to offend that person, he couldn't afford to anger these ones here. All these people were somebody. Anytime. The prop master spoke calmly. Miss, one word from you, we can start filming anytime. But why'd I hear from my dad that you have no time? This was freaking Yi Junpo's own daughter. His daughter was ruthless. Indeed, the family lived up to being an ex-member of the Sword of the Empire. Ding! Awesomeness Express +10. I do have time. I do have time. The heavens and the earth are great, but you, miss, are even greater. The girl seemed satisfied. She grinned as she sipped at the soy milk and stared at the prop master. Before 6 p.m. tonight, I want to see you at my house with the right attitude. Otherwise, I will be here with these guys every day to liven up the atmosphere. The prop master turned pale as a sheet. Don't worry, miss. I will be there for sure. He was already prepared to die. Imagine having them doing this every day. Once was more than enough. Yi Yunqi gestured a wave and exited, taking the men with her. Now they headed off to the next target. She did manage to check off more names from the name list even though she had not gone to school today. Lighting, props, field service, makeup, martial arts, sound effects, etc. Although there were also unyielding people, with Big Brother Zhuang dealing with them, even if they were hard as diamonds, he'd torture them till they were like bits of charcoal. So they went on until they completed the final name on the list. Yi Yunqi then took the men and embarked on the journey home. Big Brother Zhuang and his men gleefully counted their day's earnings. From now on, whoever would dare say that the Yi family didn't have any money would have to deal with your granduncle here. Miss, if there's more money to be made in the future, think of us. Don't worry, there will be opportunities. The young girl waved at him lazily, gathered her lengthy hair, and walked away slowly. On the other hand, Big Brother Zhuang and his men were stunned. Say, do you guys think something's gone awry in old Master Yi's head? He actually ousted such a powerful big sister type from the family? If that were the case, wouldn't the Yi family be doomed forever? It was a day of chasing down debts and accumulating much awesomeness express, of course. The most significant contributors were Big Brother Zhuang and his men. At a count, she had collected 360 awesomeness express. When she got home, Yi Yunji came over anxiously. Yunqi, are you all right? She had only told her big brother of what was going on. She did not breathe a word to Dad. I'm fine. How about school? I've applied for absence for you, your teacher. Why didn't he even seem to bother about her? Big brother, you're a designer. Come back and help with post-production and posters. Yi Yunji nodded in agreement. But Yunqi, do you think Dad can really make it? It's been so many years, and no one in our family has produced anything worthy. Besides, if after making the movie, no one watches it, wouldn't it be a big blow to Dad? After all, Dad would rather leave the main family to chase his dreams. What would happen to Dad if no one watched the film? No, for sure, there will be people watching it. Really, where did all that confidence come from? Yi Yunji felt somewhat helpless. Of late, his little sister had been full of confidence, but the reality was never as perfect as dreams. The reality was cruel. Indeed, Yi Yunqi was confident. The male lead was Di Junxi. Why wouldn't she be confident? Every member of the Sword of the Empire would have to come and watch it. That was good enough. Oh, big brother, if they ask your name, just tell them you're big brother Yun. Yi Yunji fell into a deep silence. All right, whatever. As long as the little sister was happy, it would do. She could do whatever she wanted. Sure, my little princess. 6 p.m. Yi Junpo glanced at his watch repeatedly and asked, Yunqi, are you sure they will turn up for real? Yes. That's quite impossible, isn't it? I had gone looking for them a few times, so why would they change their minds? Yi Junpo still felt that things were a little unreal. He looked at the time again. It was already 6 p.m. They're coming at 6 p.m. It's already 6 p.m., do you think? Could it be that they weren't coming and were only playing a trick on you, precious daughter? Director Yi, we're here, haha, Director Yi. There's no doubt you have to make this movie. Right. All of us will turn up to support you. As they spoke, a group had already flooded the room as though on cue. It was cued, wasn't it? This lady had cued them one at a time. Then, everyone saw how beaten up all the others were, and they turned up without a fuss. They comforted themselves. Fortunately, they had quickly agreed. Otherwise, they'd be like the others, swollen like a pig's head. Yi Junpo was visibly touched. They had actually turned up to support him? That was awesome. Your time, I have nothing but time. That's right, don't worry, Director Yi. We'll comply with your requirements. Right. Even if we film right now, we have no complaints. Yes, no complaints. Yi Junpo was speechless. A fantasy world. Was he dreaming? These people had never been polite to him. Why were they so eager today? Oh, is this Director Yi's daughter? She's prettier than celebrities. Yes, just like the director. One look and you can tell she's an outstanding talent. A real beauty. Director's done a fine job. Haha, director is blessed. In the blink of an eye, these people surrounded Yi Yunshi, showering her with attention. Great miss, I'm here. I didn't lie. Great miss. Me too. Whatever you say, we'll obey. Great miss, we love you. Love you. Listen to the voices of our sincere hearts. They were almost down on their knees, opening up their hearts in confession. Please, just don't turn up demanding for repayment again. Ding. Awesomeness Express +10. Ding. Awesomeness Express +10. Ding. Awesomeness Express +10. Yi Junpo was stunned. Son. I think I'm the director? That's right. But why are they so eager to please Yunshi? Yi Yunji looked at them silently. Love one, love all. Is that so? Yi Junpo was stumped. Then, why aren't they so eager towards you? Yi Yunji grimaced and said, please call me Big Brother Yun. Yi Junpo knitted his forehead. All right, no problem then. Uncle Yi. Healy and Moxie walked over with Sun Chao and Wang Tingting, saying, Yunshi has asked us to help with the filming. We're not sure if we are any good. Sure, of course, you'll be fine. Many celebrities nowadays didn't have much else to offer apart from good looks, so it was the same with or without them. Yi Junpo was ready to risk all. He had nothing but time. If they didn't have the acting skills, he'd guide them himself. Right. Looking at the crowd, only the male lead was missing. Why wasn't he here? Just as he was getting anxious, the front door flew open with a loud bang. Everyone in the house fell silent at once. They turned to look at the doorway reflexively, freezing on the spot at the same time. A devastatingly good-looking man with an imposing presence entered. He exuded glamour and loftiness with an expression of arrogance and disdain in his eyes. Looking at him inevitably made one feel like they were looking upon a heavenly being. Ji Jungxi swept his gaze over everyone in the house, but he did not see the little lass he was looking for. He loosened his necktie impatiently, inadvertently exposing that rarely seen and sensual collarbone. Even the men felt the thirst in their throats. What could they do? This person was so bewitchingly beautiful. Ji Jungxi sauntered into the room and sat down on the sofa. He didn't say a word, but the people automatically parted as he made his way in. They looked at him, transfixed, unblinking. The man was like a god who found himself among earthlings by chance or royalty on a private visit. In the glow of his imposing presence, the shabby and narrow apartment transformed into a glittering throne. Yi Junpo gathered his courage to ask, "You're the male lead Yunshi has invited?" Ji Jungxi frowned. Clearly, he was not in a good mood. The atmosphere in the house turned oppressive. "Uncle, you're better off giving this up." Mo Yuxiang smiled and continued, "How could our young master possibly take the male lead role? He's here to clarify this with Miss Yi. She shouldn't come to us for these senseless undertakings. He already felt like dying holding up the video camera yesterday, and they want young Master D to act in the male lead role? Are you guys crazy? Furthermore, young Master D would never agree to it. Look, he's made it so clear and young Master D had not said anything to disagree, right? Yi Junpo hesitated. This young man had the vibes that were a good match for the story character Yan Junyu. He had an overwhelming air of moral courage and integrity with bone-chilling dominance. He didn't even have to act, he was born to play this role. However, precious daughter, the guy doesn't want to act. What do we do now? They had settled the crew workers, the script, and even Healy and Moxie had turned up to help with the filming. They only lacked a male lead. He had turned up but refused to do the job? Yi Junpo grieved. It felt like this was a painting that had been worked on for a long time, and this was the final stroke causing the annoyance. Yi Yunqi, Di Junxi said nonchalantly. Get her to come and see me. Yi Junpo paused for a moment. Then he realized, his daughter had not appeared yet. There's no need to look for her. It's me you're looking for. Amidst the crowd, a young man with a braid appeared. He walked out from the crowd slowly with a wicked smile on his face. Because I'm the one playing opposite young Master D's role, Yi Yunqi, cross-dressed in a male disguise, flashed a smile. She was very much a hooligan and wickedly charming.